What's up, everybody? Thanks for listening to Two in the Cooler. We've got a great episode today, but before we get into that, I want to tell you guys about Instacart. Instacart is the best way to get your groceries in 2020. The Instacart workers will hand select the freshest produce for you and any other products that you're looking for from some of your favorite local stores and deliver them right to your door in as little as 1 hour. Avoid going to the crowded grocery stores. Avoid searching aimlessly through the aisles. Where are the beans or the carrots or whatever I'm looking for? I don't know. I don't know what you eat. Eat whatever you like. But you should get it delivered with Instacart because it's so easy, and they will even keep your eggs safe for you. Right now, Two in the Cooler listeners get free delivery on their first order of $35 or more. All you have to do is use the link in our show notes to get that deal. Today's episode, Ian, our guest today, one of Matthew's hockey coaches at Canisius. He was a lot of fun to talk to. He's a great guy. He's been coaching there for 8 years now. We talked a lot about hockey, a lot about the effects of COVID on collegiate hockey and things like that. And maybe tell a couple of stories from the road as well. He and Matthew have seen a lot together, so enjoy that. Oh, and the Who Would Win of the Week this week? Buckle up, and don't forget to let us know on Twitter who you think would win. While we're on the subject, you probably should follow us on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just saying it's probably a good idea, but do whatever you want. And we would appreciate it if you would share the show with the people you love. That would mean a lot to us. But the important thing is enjoy today's episode, and thanks for listening, guys.
Whatever, and I've been doing a lot of golfing. That's been exciting.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, because we've talked about that a few times. Andrew's like, fuck golf.
No, I got nothing against golf.
Andrew doesn't understand
What
the
do you
game.
mean?
That's not true at all, Matthew. I'm just laughing, just about golf in general, I guess. I don't know, just that people are still out there golfing. I'm glad that people have something to do.
How have you been spending your quarantine, Andy?
Yeah.
Have you been, now, since you're not golfing, are you just moving?
Yeah, doing nothing, just working and doing a bunch of podcast shit, and that's it, which is, that's okay for me. I gotta be honest, I'm not the most exciting person that you've ever met, so because I still had to go to work every day, and my girlfriend as well, quarantine was not super different from what we were already doing.
Sitting around doing nothing, pretty much.
Most of the time, yeah.
Well, he's just doing reviews on movies and TV shows.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that takes up a lot of
that's all
time,
it is.
Matthew.
It's a
Somebody's
lot-
got to watch
It's
this
a lot of
shit.
time.
I still got a bone to pick with you about Hamilton. I can't believe you only like 2 songs out of the whole thing.
The rest of them were fine, but there were only 2 that I really liked, and now I can't remember which ones they were. It was
You called something really funny. I forgot what it was. It was like something with a turntable or something. Or Satisfied was one, I think. You called it the rewind scene.
Yeah, the rewind scene. The rewind scene
yeah.
was big. That's a big Hamilton moment. The rewind
The whole
scene.
thing is on a turntable.
Yeah, but that's when they really get to use it. This is the turntable. See, the way that I watch Hamilton is the turntable is sort of like another character in the show to really bring it out for people.
I have absolutely no clue what's going on right now. I have no clue what you guys are talking about.
So there's a musical that is out there. It was very popular 4 years ago. I'm a big musical guy, which a lot of people don't know. And I heard,
Fun fact,
thanks to this podcast, about Film Juice. So I kind of was listening to that. And then I heard they reviewed Hamilton, and I'm listening to the whole thing, and I'm like, it's so unique because I watched it once, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe. I kind of been like looking at it bits and parts, but like it's good to hear it from other people. But it's like I think everybody loves it. It's very confusing if you haven't really like seen it or heard much about it before. You're like, wait, this is what this is and other stuff. And like a guy from Mindhunter or whatever is in it too. He's the king. So a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could talk about that or your Double Shot at Love. Your call. I have not watched Double Shot at Love.
Yeah.
So I have
Oh,
zero
you gotta,
idea.
You
buddy.
see, that's what you got to
If
get
you
to.
liked Hamilton, you're gonna love Double Shot at Love.
All I know is
some people call it the modern day Hamilton. Some people have referred to Double Shot as Love as that because it is. Ooh.
All I heard is what you guys were talking about, saying Kebs Are Here is them basically saying they're shooting somebody off the show.
It's awesome.
It's true, and it's amazing.
Oh man.
The only musical experience I have is I've seen all the High School Musical movies. I've seen
Fair?
What's that one movie I really like? Oh,
The Greatest
the
Showman,
one about
right?
P.T.
Yeah.
Barnum. The Greatest Showman, that's kind of a musical. And when I was in 10th grade, I went on a school trip to New York City and we saw Aladdin.
But Zac Efron wasn't in
Broadway.
Aladdin, right? So you didn't like that
Zac
one as
Efron
much.
was not in Aladdin. He was in the other movies.
mhm.
Yeah. Big Zac Efron guy. I actually do. If I were to turn you this way, you'd see my big posters, my big Zac Efron posters. And there's a fat head of him in my closet, but I don't really show that to people.
He's a good actor.
All right, so back to what I mentioned at the start of the podcast. What I kind of really wanted to get into was talk about hockey a little bit with Ian, because obviously that's something that's what brought us together. That's definitely what we have in common. And so Ian is our assistant coach, but he's definitely more than that. He runs a big part of our program, and he's been responsible to kind of growing it to what it is now, along with his father and his younger brother, who I had also played with. So how many years now have you been on the coaching staff?
8 or 9 now, something like that.
8 or 9 years. Wow. So you're getting old.
Yeah, fresh out. Well, number one, yes, there's no question there. Yeah, it was like I left Niagara, and it was just good time to go coach at Canisius, and now there's 2 new coaches for this year, and both of those guys are former Niagara guys too. So.
Yep, I saw that. We've got a new defensive specialist coach, and we've got a new goalie coach, right? Something like that. Is there? I think there's 3 new coaches, isn't there? Oh no, Schneggenberger's coming back. Yeah.
Jeez.
So
great hockey name. I love these great hockey names. I don't know shit about hockey, Ian. I'll be the first to say that. But there's some things about hockey that from the outside I love. I absolutely love, and one of them is the names. And Schneggy, that's a great hockey name.
I mean,
Andy, we have a coach named Jerry Jones, I will tell you that.
Oh boy.
Looks just like him.
he's got quite a resemblance to him in mind and body and soul.
That
he's
bad
Jerry Jones.
news.
It's uncanny. So just before we move on from that, what do you think from your time when you started 9 years ago as a young Ian, what do you think has been the biggest change from the program that you guys saw when it first started? How you guys moved into that, how it's helped the program. Talk a little bit about the growth over the 9 years that you've seen and where we've started versus where we are now.
I think like probably 2 years before I got there is when my dad took over, and they were ACHA D3. So, not a knock on a lot of the ACHA D3 teams, but a lot of them are almost glorified men's league, because it's just schools saying, here's $1,000, go get some guys together, and there's not much staff or anything around it. And basically, when we took it over, it was like, all right, we're going to make it ACHA D1. We need the school's backing, otherwise it's not going to last. And we got the school's blessing. We've got, players just coming from all over. I mean, Matt, we've got guys from Montreal, Vegas, Seattle. They're all over. But the biggest thing I think just from it is it's getting more exposure from what it was probably 8 years ago. It's just like local guys. And now it's like nationally we're traveling a lot more. We're able to have these nice trips. We're trying to go to Colorado next year. So it's growing, and even internally with the staff, like we just said, like we're trying to get a full staff. We're trying to make it as official and as close to a D3 program as possible without actually being D3, because that would be I guess a knock against Canisius already having a D1 team, but just staff, team, resources, everything has gotten better each year, and hopefully we'll have a better rink next year too.
Yeah, I've been pushing. That's been one of my biggest pushing points. I definitely I don't know. We've talked about that before. It's very convenient, and it's a luxury that helps you bring in those players that you talk about. That's something that guys look at when they're deciding, okay, where do I want to go to school? Outside of education, because everybody knows that's number one. People like what they get and what they have and what they can use. It benefits them and it benefits us as a program, and we get stuff like that. And that's one thing that I think we have definitely grown in, is kind of gearing what we do towards what players want to do and what's best for players. I think that's one thing that you've really been on, and Andy was really on too. And Steve sometimes has a bit of the older style mindset where it doesn't matter if you want to play, you're going to play, but it's not always the case, because it's a lot and it's busy and it's time consuming, and no matter how much you love something, if you're not willing to make time for it, then it doesn't matter, and that stuff helps. Aside from that, Andy, are you frozen over there? You're giving me weird looks. You're giving me a little lazy
No,
eye.
you were frozen on my computer. That's just what happens, Matthew.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's the life of living on the internet. Another question I had for you, Ian, was kind of about the whole coronavirus thing. So we've talked about it a ton on this podcast, how it's affected everybody. But from a hockey standpoint, it's affected everybody in ways that we never really thought would happen, right? We never really thought that seasons would get canceled, and we'd have to limit who we're with on the ice and when we're on the ice and stuff like that. And a lot of this stuff is fresh in my brain, because I was getting emails and texts from you up to 12 hours ago talking about our season, and we talked about it. Andy heard a little bit about it before we started recording, and I wanted you to get into a little bit of that. How have you dealt with the league and the teams and our schedules? All the schedules were already made when this stuff kind of started going down, right? So how has that affected you, and what is that going to do going forward?
The way I kind of look at it was, we finished playoffs late February, early March, something like that. And pretty much from that moment on, I got back on the recruiting train, scheduling, thinking of, what we want to do, even clothing and equipment-wise for next year. And usually that's, 2 or 3 months and you're done. But just kind of due to how everything continued to evolve, it turned into all the coaches in our league jumped on a giant group chat just to get everyone's school's opinion of what's going on, with some schools with SUNY affiliates, some are, outside of that and more independent, maybe like a Rutgers. But there was just a lot of coaches near and far just calling us saying, hey, this is what's going on in Florida. This is what's going on in Michigan. And we kind of had that a lot. And even talking to a lot of the guys that are in Canada right now, everything's kind of open for them. They're skating 2 or 3 times a week, where we have, guys that I have one guy that coaches a clinic over at Holiday Twin Rinks, and he said everyone has to have their equipment on before they go in. They all have to wear masks. They're all doing thermometer testing. They're doing pretty much everything, and the kids can't even shower. So, the restrictions on it are insane, but they're still trying to find a workaround, where I think that's where Canisius has kind of been, look, we have this plan for the school, but if you're doing this highly restricted sport, knowing contact and all these kids and everything like that, we'll just make sure you're ready to go, but there's going to be a lot that has to change of, our staff is going to be doing the thermometer testing. We're trying to get team masks and just get things that are more tailored to people, so it's easier to play, easier to practice, and hopefully go back to kind of normalcy in January. But
hopefully be able to do a little bit of travel.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's the hope. It was weird knowing that probably a month ago I got 3 different emails from coaches saying, we're done for the semester or we're done for the year. And they, you just got to do what's best to the health of everybody, even if it means it stinks for a year for most of the students. So I kind of feel for everybody in that aspect.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's how it goes. You got to battle. Andy, what are you thinking about? What's on your brain right now, hockey-wise?
Well, you know me. As far as hockey goes, the wheels are always turning. But one of the things that you guys were talking about right before we got started was you've got some new guys coming in from some up in Canada, some from Vegas and Seattle, I think you said. What's the protocol for going to be for these guys coming in? And am I getting this right? Is some of your games and stuff, is that going to be delayed now?
Absolutely. So like
Okay.
we just sent an email out yesterday, pretty much saying that every school, at least locally, and we're one of the better states right now, is pretty much in agreement that the fall is a no-go. So now it's a matter of talking to all the other schools to see who wants to push a game back to January. How do we want to run our internal league for January and for playoffs too? Because typically nationals is in March and they're pushing that back to April. So everything is just basically taken, like 3 months back, and we might have a very jam-packed game schedule come spring. But for the guys that are coming in from anywhere outside of New York State, they're coming in 2 weeks early. And what I've been told by them is they're in their dorm. They will have food delivered to them. They will get their laundry pretty much, I think, done for them, or their trash is done. But they can't like go anywhere. They just have to be there 2 weeks before some local kids that they might be dorming with are there, so they meet the quarantine qualifications. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but maybe some Xbox or PlayStation or something is usually the only goal there. Maybe they watch Hamilton or Double Shot at Love. Who knows?
You can binge Double Shot. That's the
already,
best way to do it.
You could watch Scoob.
Yeah, guys, just a quick reminder, Scoob is still out on video on demand and Amazon Prime Video Cinema. So let's try and get some more eyes on that project. How about?
As far as some of the guys coming in, I've already been trying to devise plans of how I'm going to sneak them out of their dorms and stuff like that. Get, maybe a few golf rounds in, stuff like that. Because I've been, a lot of rinks are very strict, but I have the luxury of being pretty close with some of the rink owners just from how I've skated in the past. So I've been on the ice probably about 4 times a week for the past 3 weeks, just kind of doing my thing. And I don't know. It's definitely tough. You have to be careful. You have to watch where you go and watch what you say, and you don't ever want something. It took us so long to get the ability to skate back, and I will never take that for granted again now, especially, as it took me twice as long because I was coming off the good old-fashioned MCL tear, so I wasn't skating long before coronavirus was even a threat to us. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm just excited to kind of when that October 1st day does come and we're allowed to get back together, get on the ice, and see if I can embarrass some kids. I don't know.
Yeah. There's a rumor going around that if we split up the teams, there's going to be a coaching draft. So you got to raise your stock there. Show your knees in a good place.
If I don't go number one, I'm transferring. Bottom line. No, yeah, but it's definitely going to be crazy. I don't know. There's just so much. There's so many moving parts about it. People will ask me, and I'm like, I have no fucking clue what's going on. I don't even. I haven't even finished registering. I'm accepted, but I haven't even finished registering for classes yet because I don't know if. As of right now, my program is pretty much specifically online, and I've kind of been pushing to get one class pushed to on campus so that I can just kind of have to go to campus and maybe not be a little lazy shit. But I don't know. We'll see what happens, and it's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
Very true.
When are you supposed to start, Matthew?
August 31st is our first day of classes.
So typically, when do you guys start with hockey?
The first Wednesday of classes. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So the freshmen get there on Thursday. So say we started on the 31st, whatever. That's a Monday. So the freshmen would get there the Thursday beforehand, have their freshman orientation, and then that Sunday morning we'd have our first unofficial skate. And then I believe it's usually Tuesday or Wednesday that we officially start. And then we go 3 days on ice of whatever, like a little mini kind of training camp, team selection type deal. And then, so that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we have a good weekend, and then Monday we go to work. And that's usually how it starts. But, so yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do for that first month or so of college. I guess I'll probably have to, start drinking or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, technically,
Why, Andy?
I was going to say we would have had Sunday skates at the Pepsi Center this Sunday. Would have been the first start.
Wow.
Just optional wise, but still,
But,
it's kind of like.
I wouldn't have been there. I was taking the option on the first one. I'll be on vacation. That's another thing. I'm going on vacation. Leave tomorrow. I got a lot of stuff to do. I'm very excited. Me and like my whole crew, like Logar and Bauer, and we rented a big Airbnb out in like a cabin out in Pennsylvania. It's a big private cabin. It's got a pond, a beach, hot tub, a whole bunch of grass, a few bedrooms.
Grass.
And we're going in replacement of Boots and Hearts, since we cannot travel to Boots and Hearts this year. We are going. So Boots and Hearts would have been actually next weekend, but we planned our trip this weekend just to give us a little more time before all that school stuff begins. And it's going to be fun. Wednesday to Monday, so we're going for 5 days. And my goal is to, I would say, drink about 3 million beers. If I can get 3 million beers down in the next 5 days, I would say I've accomplished something. And then I'll have to absolutely nurse myself back to health and get back onto the ice again and see where we go from there.
And there's no whiskey involved on this trip? Only beers?
Oh, there will. I mean, come on. You know I can only go so long without whiskey. I get bored. No, but yeah. Another thing I want to talk to you, Ian, about hockey was a lot of people that I meet, Andrew included, and I've lived with him for a long time, kind of don't understand, I feel like, how much time we're actually all forced to be in a confined space as far as when we travel and stuff like that, and being on the bus. And I know that you've definitely been on the bus for some good times and some bad times, and I wanted to get into a little about that because I love the bus. It's one of my favorite places to be. If I'm not on the ice, I'd rather be on the bus than anywhere else. I don't know. Let's hear what you have to say about the bus. You got any good bus stories or any bus memories?
I would go. This will probably go back to my Niagara days. I was a freshman and I didn't know like what the situation was with like even the bus in general. So like my first trip, I was definitely out the night before, probably. And I told my roommate, I go, hey, no matter what happens, I need you to set an alarm too. He goes, no problem. I got this. We'll be good. So he came back later than I did. He never set an alarm. I overslept on my alarm, and I'm running to Dwyer to get my bag on the bus, and I'm like 10 minutes late. And I'm like, oh, God, like this not setting the tone really well for the first weekend of the year. So I get on there, and I'm basically panicking for like the first half hour. I just sit there, mind my own business. I'm like sitting in the back, and I'm thinking like I'm just gonna get destroyed. So within like the first 5 minutes, the coach at the time it was Larry comes back to me. He's like, hey, I'm gonna give you one try here, but if you ever do that again, I will murder you. So I'm like, okay, message received, whatever. So as we're driving. I think it was a longer trip to like Virginia. So as we're driving, all of a sudden the seniors are in the back of the bus and all the freshmen are in the front, as it normally goes on the bus. And as we're getting there, the coachings start going to the back. And I'm like, why are they going back there? Are they deciding something? Is this all because I was late? Like I took my anxiety and it just went through.
Yeah.
Turns out like nobody gave a shit I was late, but every freshman had to go through and they had to sing a song. They had to do an impression of someone on the team, coaching staff or not, and they also had to give them a fun fact that nobody knew about them. So I think I ended up singing, it was a really old country song. I don't know why at the time, it just seemed like a good song to sing. I'm pretty sure it was some Garth Brooks song, and my impression was either in between, do I make fun of the coach who just yelled at me, or do I make fun of anyone else? Yeah, and I was like, or do I make fun of anybody else on the team because, like, this is easy? And I was like, I looked at him dead in the eye, and I was about to, like, go through with, like, an impression of Larry just basically bitching me out for being late. And, like, I just, like, the fear hit me, and I just saw his arms cross and sit back. I'm just like, I'm going to make fun of the captain instead. That's fine. That's fine. So I did some impression, but it was, like, one thing that stuck with me is, like, the rest of the time I'm like, I will never fuck with him, but I'll mess around with anybody else. But, like, he instilled the fear of God. I was never late again, and it's just something that'll always stick with me. But on the bus, actually, last year, I don't know if you know this, Matt, you had the busted up speaker, and it was you and Durkee singing God knows what. It was It was interesting. I mean, there's a few bus trips that I remember specifically from like your years at Canisius. And one of them, I have a photo of you and Durkee singing like you're at a karaoke night at Sterling. And it is just one of the best photos. And you see all the guys in the back, like Joey's like, what the fuck did I just hear? You got other guys looking back there. I mean, I've seen that. I've heard Grace rap, what was it, Trophies. He like hit every note perfectly.
Yeah.
Perfect. I've seen a lot of different things on the bus, but as a player, that was like the craziest thing for me because you're not ready for anything, and I went through just like a roller coaster up and down of like everything all in the span of like probably 2 hours. I'll never forget that.
Of emotion.
Yeah, it was bad.
I know the exact moment you're talking about when Durkee and I were singing when we had the old speaker. I wish I could remember. I have a video of it somewhere. I'll have to find it. I'll find it and we can get it. We can get it out on Twitter because I've sang many of time on that bus, and as Andrew knows, I do have the voice.
He's got
of an
a
angel.
terrible singing voice. I'm sure that you can corroborate. I mean, listen, the kid's got passion. Nobody's gonna say he doesn't, but he just doesn't have the talent, Matthew. I hate to break it to you.
I think the best recommendation is the combo of Fergie and Jesus. That's where he's at. He's very skillful.
Oh, you know what song it is? You know what song it is that Durkee and I sing on the bus? I wonder if this was it. We sing Picture by Kid Rock and Chill Crow a lot. We duet it. He does the Kid Rock part, and I do the Chill Crow part.
That might be right. I think that's right.
Yeah.
That is a great song.
We've done that a few times. You bring up the Sterling. The Sterling inspired us to have our own karaoke event one night, and it was probably the most fun that I've ever had. I've never been at like a college event in a house on Hughes Avenue and seen a whole group of random people like just stop what they're doing and just do the Cupid Shuffle in a living room. And I accomplished that once, and that's one thing I'm really proud of. Is I think I really, people were into the music. Me and Durkee put on a good few shows, and yeah, we've had some good fun, especially on the bus. I love making people sing on the bus. Do you remember when we used to do bus tag?
What's bus tag?
So Andy,
yeah, you might like that.
Bus tag is a game where when you're on the bus, you do everything together, right? Like so everybody gets off the bus and goes in and eats, and then everybody leaves the restaurant at the same time and gets back on the bus. So we used to do this thing called bus tag where somebody would start it and you tag somebody and everybody runs back to the bus, and you have to not be it like when you get back on the bus, like the last person like that gets on the bus, like they're looking for somebody else to tag. So if you're the very last person, you then have to sing karaoke song for the bus, and it's quite a magical experience. I was never last because I'm too quick for that, but it's always good fun getting somebody that's like taking a shit or something, doesn't realize that everybody's leaving, and they walk out and they know, they're like, fuck, I'm gonna be the last person on this bus and I'm gonna have to embarrass myself. Yeah. We do a lot of good things on the bus. Power hour, like an hour before we get to games, we used to do power hour, throwback hour, and just play throwback music to wake everybody up. Because when you're on the bus for 5, 6, 7 hours, you're usually sleeping or just like in a lull watching a movie, maybe trying to get some schoolwork done. And it takes a lot of energy to kind of, wake you back up and get your legs going again. So usually, like, within an hour, 40 minutes of being to the rink, wherever we were going, we would just start blasting music, no matter if everybody was asleep. It didn't matter what was going on. I was up, and I was waking Stan up, and he was going to be blasting that speaker regardless. So definitely some good memories on that bus.
How come I'm always the one that has to bring the movies, by the way? How did we work that out?
Because you're a movie guy. Everybody has a thing, and you are a movie guy. And you always do so good. You're so good at it.
Okay, did anyone bring anything? And you just look around and it's crickets across the whole bus. I'm like, so if I didn't bring anything, we're sitting in silence for 6 hours?
Yeah. We did have one guy who would occasionally bring a movie, but Chris Kafel, he would bring a movie every once in a while. But yeah, he doesn't bring movies for us anymore. Sorry, I'm distracted. Now I'm thinking about being on the bus. I can't wait. Andy, do you have any immediate questions that come to your head before I move on to what I'm getting into next?
Oh, you know what? This is a little more of this isn't as fun as like a bus question or anything, but I am curious just getting to hear all about that as a guy whose only sports experience was being on a high school swim team. where, it's very different from, what you guys are being on the bus together and everything all the time. It sounds like it's a lot of fun. I'm sure that it's tough, but it sounds like you guys have a good time. So, Ian, I'm kind of wondering, and Matthew, maybe you can answer this too, but with your experience being a player, being a coach, how much does the coaching staff have influence on the culture of a team? Because it sounds like you guys get pretty close, or you are pretty close right now.
I mean, I think I've been trying to push Matt to go for grad school for about a full year and a half now, so that's definitely probably accurate. No, I mean it's a lot, right? Like we're spending the same amount of time just like the team, except for we're not, hanging out after the games or something. We're gonna hang out as the coaching staff, but like I think the biggest thing I've learned in the past like 8 years is kind of to Matt's point earlier is like just because it's been one way always doesn't mean it's the right way. And like looking at new tactics or just thinking, I'll always throw something out there, but I'm always going to listen to everybody that even if it's a bad idea or a good idea, if you have any idea, vocalize it because it could be something us are all really not thinking of. So if we're all rigid and we're saying, nope, you can't play this way, you can't do that, the bus rides probably wouldn't be fun. Everyone would be miserable probably for the most part. So like I've just kind of noticed like whether it's being on the bus or doing anything, I mean, it's school comes first, and it's in a very competitive and fun league. But like, we want guys to have fun. We don't want to seem like it's a military like club, something like very strict. There's no you have to fit in this box. It's like I don't care where you are, where you come from, what position you are, or ideas you have. Like, let's just try to combine it all together. And if we all make it work, then we're golden. But it takes buy-in from everybody, not even just the coaching agreeing, which we don't all agree at the same time. I can definitely attest to that.
Yeah. That's to touch on that, Andy. I think a big part of it is, and our coaching staff does a really good job of it, is the teams that we've had in the past since I've been there are teams full of like characters, guys who have very big personalities, but on top of that, it makes them very good hockey players because they're creative and they're competitive, and especially a lot of our top level guys are guys who really have been guys who like to have fun, but at the same time, when you get to the rink, they're the most competitive guys there, right? So you have to find that balance and that's kind of where all that team building thing comes into. If you have fun, if you can get everybody together and have fun and just continue to grow closer, and that's something that we try to do outside of the rink a lot, as much as we do when we're there. And our coaching staff kind of allows that. They know that when we have our time off, we're going to get together and enjoy ourselves because that brings us closer and it allows us to, when we get to the rink, all be on the same page of, all right, it's business now. And there has been times in the past where there's guys that kind of flirt with that line and lose that line maybe of business and pleasure, and it just doesn't really fly. That's when you start getting angry Ian. And I've seen angry Ian, and angry Ian's, I wouldn't ever want him against me. We usually tend to be on the same page, but
I gotta say, so, I think that really in general us. I have well, no, it's hit or miss, but I think it's like I usually go, I'd say once a year, like parabolic, like I'm just gonna lose my shit because I'm like, this is if no one else is gonna do it, I gotta do it. And I think last year it was twice, and I think last year I think we're thinking the same thing when I
keep going.
Wiz,
in RIT,
yeah, I love the kid. One of my favorite guys of all time. He's a character, very good hockey player, but he's a character, and like. It was practice or it was a game, I'll just, I'll poke fun at him, but he can take it. Whereas, like, other times, like, there's some kids, that just straight up can't take, like, anyone talking at them. They just shut down. So, for us, we got to kind of tread that line. But for him, he was, like, mentally tough enough to bounce back and played really good at the end of that game. But, like, I'd say I do that once or twice here and there. Like Stanley probably was a couple of years ago. I did it to him outside of a game when he was a scratch once. But
which was probably deserved.
Yeah, I would say so. like I think out of probably all of the teams that I've been a part of, there's 3 people that have been like true captain, bring people together kind of guys. One is Brian Sanu, who was like the second year I was on the team, and the other 2 were probably Stan and Matt. And other than that, it's like it's hit or miss. Where some guys are rogues, some guys are like half and half, and you got to kind of find that line. But it's like if I'm gonna lose my shit, usually Matt can come back going, all right, did everyone see there's a reason behind this? And it sounds like they can listen to that where I'm just probably like loud blaring noise to them and it's just right over some of their heads. So it works well.
It seems to me like not even just in sports, but in just about anything, some of the most successful people are the ones who don't always take themselves seriously, but take what they do very seriously. And I would consider Matthew probably one of those people, for sure, because I know that I guess he's like real. I don't know. I think you're pretty goofy, kid. Not in a bad way. I'm just saying. But when it comes to hockey, I mean, you're laser. You got that laser focus, right? And so I believe that guys like Matthew here are very important to any team. So that's good to hear. Before we move on, Matthew, I'm not sure what you want to get into, but I just want you guys. This is something that I have been thinking about a lot, and I'm really curious on your guys' thoughts. I feel like everybody considers the NBA to be the trash-talking league, and they consider basketball players to be the best trash talkers. But I don't think that is true. I would say, based on what I know, hockey players are probably the best trash talkers. Would you agree with that?
Without a doubt. We say some funny shit. Here's the thing.
Because
okay, you go.
I guess maybe because I don't know how often they mic up NHL players or anybody, and if you really get to hear that sort of thing. But when they mic up NBA players, I feel like it's a lot of chest thumping, right? It's a lot of like, you can't guard me, like all this stuff. And that's intense. There's an intimidation factor there. But the thing that I love about hockey players is that they're speaking a completely different language. Like, if you haven't spent time around hockey players, you have no idea what they're saying. And having been exposed to Matthew and his buddies, that's something that I really pride myself on, is that I think that I can translate the hockey language pretty well. And being able to, destroy some guys, and they don't even know what you're saying. And you're right, Matthew. Oftentimes it is some of the funniest shit you'll ever hear. I mean, that's a whole different level of trash talking. That's on a different planet.
I'm gonna say something, and I want to hear Ian chime in because I know that he hears some.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Standing behind us on the bench. I think the difference between when you're trash talking in the NBA and when you're trash talking in hockey is 2 things. One, you know that I like basketball, I like college basketball, but I don't really like the NBA. I think the league's kind of a joke. Sorry, NBA fans. But NBA trash talking is kind of like about intimidation, like you said, that like chest thumping. Whereas in hockey, your words aren't really used to intimidate people because it's a contact sport. You could physically dominate somebody if that's what you're looking to do. Whereas the way people talk to each other in hockey is more about like fucking with their head, right? It's all a mental game. You want to try to take that person out of the current state they're in, and everybody that plays hockey has done that to somebody and seen how it affects them, and they've had it done to them, no matter what. Like, there's things that people will say that will affect you, and you get accustomed to it, but sometimes your wires cross, and that's the whole goal of it. And the other part of that is there's a different respect level in hockey, especially as levels go up and up and up. You don't say shit like that to certain people, right? And, like, you'll hear people say that to people, and you'll be like, hey, like, you don't say that to that guy, right? Like, that guy has been in this league for 4 years. He's done what he's done. He's proven his worth. Like, you like, you have even though you're still going to chirp him, you have a level of respect for that guy. Whereas sometimes, like especially like as you get older in the league, and there's younger kids or smaller kids that will try to say something to you, and you just laugh in their face. You're like, buddy, like I've done more in this league in the past 4 years than you probably ever will. You have no right to say anything to me, right? And then that turns it right back on them. And I'm sure, I don't know, I say some weird shit. I get off the rails, but it kind of goes back to your point is when I do play, he's laughing because I think he can probably think of some off the top of his head. When I play hockey, I'm very serious, but I still have that goofy personality because when I get too serious is when I get my wires crossed. And this year more than ever, actually, I think there was a few times just based off of my competitive instinct that, and I wasn't playing with, I wasn't playing with my same D partner. Like I would get a little more crossed. I took my fair share of penalties early in the season for doing some stupid shit, but that's kind of how you learn to not do that stuff, Ian, what do you have to say about the way that we chirp and the way that we talk?
Some are very good, some are really fucking bad. It's some of them I'm like, you come back next summer and this is the only thing you work on, not hockey, just work on that. I think a lot of it happens to, like, what's in the game, where they came from league-wise, or even what we're doing as coaches. Because, like, we could, like, Matt, to your point, if we send you out with 6 different D partners, you're going to be like, can I please just play with someone and just sit there? And, like, it could go good or bad, but, like, most of them had good chirps. I think a few kids that come from juniors definitely don't realize, like, you're brand new to this league, and nobody cares, and they're just going to chirp you just because they know they're going to get a reaction out of you. So, like, you're easily fair game almost. But I've heard some really good ones from the forward side, and I know, like, some of the D had very good chirps last year, but Matt had a few where I'm like, that makes zero sense. I don't know where he came up with this, but it's so confusing that, like, it was Cornell. One of the players just looked at him and was like, I don't even know how to respond. Like, I can't even say, like, F this or, screw you. He's just like, thanks, and, like, continues to skate on. And I'm, like, sitting there at the same thing, like, where does this come out of your head? Where do you think this?
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the thing. You got to be original. It's like the Mighty Ducks. Just make it simple. Fight me. Move along.
Those, from an outsider's perspective, those are the best ones. Like, that's what I love hearing, is just the shit that makes no sense. And yeah, if you can't hang with that sort of, when people are tossing around these verbal haymakers, you're gonna suffer for it.
That's the thing, though, is I feel like this happens on hockey teams everywhere. When you get so close with a group of guys, like, something will happen, and you pretty much generate a new meaning for a word, or, like, a completely new word. And you'll say that to somebody, but the weird thing about hockey players is I feel like we're all in somewhat of the same headspace, where somebody could say something to me that that doesn't fit in a context, but I'll know exactly what they mean. Like, there's a lot of, like, when we say Johnson, like, we say that we say no J. Andy knows it, but, like, we say that, and I say that in almost every sentence, and people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? But that's just shit that, I don't know, we just come up with, and that's just the way we talk, and I think it's hysterical. And I think that that's kind of one of the reasons that, like, even when you skate with guys that you've never skated before, or you meet guys, everybody's kind of in this little inner circle of, like, we play hockey, and it's a nice little bond group of people that you can always relate to. But Ian had a great segue into what I think we should get into, our Who Would Win of the Week, because we've been going for a good amount of time already, and this Who Would Win of the Week might take us at least 3 months to actually figure out. The Who Would Win of the Week this week is the Mighty Ducks, the original Mighty Ducks, the team from the first movie, versus the Sandlot crew. So we kind of talked about already. One, we're sticking to just the original Mighty Ducks. There's no guys from Team USA. There's nobody from when they go to prep school. It's just Gordon Bombay's very first coaching stint after he got his 7th DWI, which is a hysterical way to start that movie, by the way. That's underrated.
Is it really his 7th?
That's the whole reason that he's a lawyer, and I don't know what number it is. You could probably look into it. But the thing is, like, he gets so many DWIs, and he gets himself out of them because he's a lawyer, that they're like, no, you have to at least mix in a little, like, community service for the boys or something. Yeah. So a quick breakdown. I'm looking at some rosters.
Here we go.
Right
Here
now.
we go.
You got Ham.
Here's one of the most noticeable things
You got.
from these things. Well, you go ahead and list them, Matthew, and then we'll get into it, I guess. My bad.
Well, I'm just kind of going through.
So,
Tell me if I forget anybody. Ham, Smalls, Squints, yeah. Timmy and Tommy. I'm trying to think of who else.
Kenny.
What was that?
Kenny the Jet.
Oh, Kenny. Oh yeah, that. Who else? Who's this? Sorry, I'm looking at like. It's hard to look up a roster for the Sandlot because it's not a real baseball team. I'm looking at
As
like,
opposed
the
to the
cast
Mighty
of the
Ducks.
movie.
Yeah, you got Smalls. You got Benny the Jet Rodriguez, All-Star, obviously. Ham, another All-Star. Squints, yeah. Kenny Nunez, who's a pitcher. Grover, who's like the tall guy with the glasses. And Tommy and Timmy Timmons, the brothers. So there's 9 of them.
Yeah, that's everybody.
When you look at the Ducks roster, they have there's some of the kids aren't like utilized in the movie a lot, but they've got like more kids on that team, even if some of them are just background. So when I was looking at it, I was thinking if we get the top 9 or whatever, and still some of them are a little iffy, I guess, but you know, obviously
you definitely take Charlie Conway, you take Goldberg, you take Banksy, you take Fulton Reed, you take. Do we? Wait. Oh shit! I'm clicking shit now. I'm all over the place. Fuck. Connie. I mean, that's a. She can
I
battle.
think you got to have Connie. You can't underestimate her.
Yeah. What are we at? You take Averton.
Yep. Jesse Hall. Did you say Jesse already?
I didn't say Jesse. You take Jesse. You fucking cake eater.
Yep. And then I guess to round it out, I would go Lewis, and I don't know the only other one that I was looking at was maybe Tommy, who is another short guy. I don't know. It's tough to remember some of them.
Yeah.
When you're kind of going in deep on the Mighty Ducks roster, but I think that's a pretty solid squad, and it definitely gets everybody that you need. One of the most interesting things about the lineup here is Jesse Hall of the Ducks and Kenny Nunez of the Sandlot are both played by the same actor. So I don't know if that's going to factor in. I mean, look, it's the characters going against each other, but these guys are obviously going to look exactly the same. So I think that might come in somewhere at these parts. And they're obviously going to be both. I mean, are these the two guys, if this is a Rumble, are these the two guys that are going right at each other? Are they matching up?
I will break this down for you very easily. The majority of the Mighty Ducks players are skill guys. Goldberg's just a bitch. He's the Sandlot team is nails. Except for Smalls, he's getting there. But the Sandlot team is nails. Like, they are. But here's the thing. I really think that it comes down to the majority of the Sandlot team versus Fulton Reed.
Mm-hmm.
And Fulton Reed is absolutely dummying those fucking idiots. Like, he is kicking every one of their ass, whether they come at him as a pack of 9 or they come at him individually.
Fulton,
smart enough to beat him.
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, you have some guys, like, obviously,
if the Jet starts running away, then maybe it's game over, but then the fight never ends.
Right, and it's got to have a conclusion. Obviously, when it gets to the point where you have guys like Squints and guys like going up against Fulton, I mean, he could break those guys over his knee. That's not. I mean, it's like matchsticks to him. But I don't know. I think that maybe the combo of Ham, because look, I guess it all depends. Because Ham, he's gonna get winded pretty easily, I think. But I mean, he's got a little of that fat strength, and then I think that we might be underestimating Grover, who again, I mean, we don't know a ton about him. They say at the end of the movie that he got really into the 70s and then just disappeared. So that's the type of kid that we're dealing with here. But he's, like you said, Matthew, everybody on the Sandlot squad, Small's obviously iffy, is Nails. And I think Grover, even though we don't see his character necessarily as much, is definitely one of those guys. Because he's even though he's in the background, I think there's just a sort of a quiet, toughness to him. And he's tall. I think he's got reach for sure. So I think that combo at a certain point might be able to give Fulton Reed at least a run for his money.
One thing I did underestimate that I'm just now thinking about is that with the Mighty Ducks, as much as like they aren't really a super scrappy team, I will say that their ability to learn and develop skill is uncanny, because in an hour and 26 minutes or whatever long that first movie is, they can't even skate, and they are now winning the Minnesota District Championship. Like they're quick learners. They're athletic
point,
people.
Actually. That's a very good point.
If pre-fight Fulton just said, maybe do a little of this, they actually might go in there and just start kicking ass. Ian, what do you think?
I was going to say, where are they fighting? On an ice rink or like somewhere that they're not skiing?
No, it's got to be neutral territory.
I think they're off ice.
That's what
it's
I'm
neutral
saying.
territory.
Because most of the time, like, Banks is good. He's a good skater. But we don't know how actually athletic he is, where Benny could literally sneak up on Fulton just because he's the fastest guy probably out there. So, like,
Banks is an athlete. Come on, Banks
is an athlete in general, but I'm saying for baseball, they're used to running, where hockey players are skating. And even though they're a good runner, they've got baseball cleats. They're running everywhere. They're quick. So
they don't have baseball cleats.
I think they're in the street.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
well, you know what I mean.
They're all wearing Converse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they're in the street, and I think that you also have to consider, they're running all the time, but if you're a naturally good skater, your balance is good, right? You're comfortable with your body. You have good control of your body.
Most of them are, not all of them.
But I would think that Banks is one of those guys. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
I think Goldberg, I think somebody's pulling their fist back at Goldberg, and he's getting a Philly. He's taking down a cheesesteak. He tapped on the fight instantly.
Let's talk.
I don't know. I think that
I was gonna say Goldberg versus Hammy. Who wins that one straight up?
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's one of the most exciting matchups in this whole Rumble is Goldberg v. Ham. Matthew, you look like you got something to say about this one.
Yeah, I don't think that Goldberg would do very well in a fight. In the movie, if you took modern day Goldberg, who's now in jail for like doing meth,
if you take a grown meth head, then sure, he could beat up a little kid from the 1950s. Nobody's debating that.
No, but I think that Goldberg is he's a bit of a marshmallow.
Well, he doesn't even like getting pucks shot against him, so why he wouldn't like a punch?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Goldberg is definitely going to. Like, his first reaction is going to be to try and, like, talk his way out of it somehow.
Yeah.
And Ham, as we know, I mean, he's a pretty good talker himself, so he's obviously not going to be affected by that in any way. He's gonna shoot back. Now that
would be you want to talk about chirps? That would be a chirp off. Or you take Ham versus
Averman?
You know what else?
And a chirp off?
If you could, Averman's got good chirps too. But if you take
that's the thing. If you get the Averman Goldberg combo, Averman Goldberg, Ham and Squints, I do think that Averman and Goldberg are gonna take that. If we're talking chirp off, then yes. If we're talking fight, again, I mean Squints, like we know he's small, but the guys the Sandlot is a scrappy ass bunch. Like they are not.
Well, the other thing I was gonna say, if you
anything.
take Jesse Hall, if you take like both Brandon Adams characters, Jesse Hall versus Kenny, and you just let them chirp at each other, I could probably sit there and watch that as a TV show for like 3 hours.
Yeah, that would be this would be a long fight just because the first 4 hours would be them just yelling the craziest, funniest shit at each other, and then eventually Fulton Reed would, have enough of it and start things going.
That's a mean man. That is a mean man. He is strong. He is a man-child compared to the rest of those kids. I really think that at the end of the day, he would bring the Mighty Ducks to victory. I don't even think that the rest of the Mighty Ducks are playing that big of a factor. As long as like one or two of them can hold their own, I think Fulton Reed can take care of the rest.
That's tough. I think that
because the way that I would base it is that I'm going based off of skill. Like I'm taking Benny the Jet, and he's fighting Banks. Because they're both skill guys, and I think that Benny's winning that fight.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. But that's just one example. So if you go down the roster, at the end of the day, I think Fulton Reed's working his way through the whole roster. Ian, all right, I don't know. What do you think, Eddie? You got to pick, Ian. You got to pick. Who are you liking? You look like you're thinking hard over there.
Looking at it as they learn a lot, to your point. So I was initially strong Sandlot folks because I'm thinking they're scrappy, they can chirp, they're good. But then I thought about it. You made one really good point. They learn really quickly, and at the beginning, all they were doing was fighting. They didn't even score goals. All they did was fight. And most hockey players fight a lot compared to baseball, where it's like throw one punch and it's over. So I'll take the Ducks. I'll take the Ducks on this one. You changed my mind.
That's good persuasion. Andy, you're still going Sandlot?
I don't know. You're definitely pulling me over towards the Ducks because you made a lot of good points. And, yeah, it's tough. I honestly don't think that the Ducks are going to be ready for the Sandlot. Like, I think they're just not ready to take that kind of heat.
The grit The Sandlot squad has the grit factor. Yeah. They slap on their jeans and their Chucks every day, and they go to the diamond and they play till they go to bed.
Yeah, I just don't.
That's commitment.
The great point that you made was definitely that the Ducks learn really quick. They're they're a cerebral group in some ways for sure, and they might be able to, they've, definitely quick on their feet, thinking wise, maybe pull a few tricks out of the bag. That's almost enough that's not quite enough to convince me, but
can I interrupt? Because I have an idea. Does it matter, looks like a fire is right near me, does it matter that you now know, like with the Sandlot, obviously there was the Sandlot too, let's just kind of throw that aside.
Yeah.
But
don't get me talking about that.
I know, because it's, in my opinion, not great. But if you look in the Ducks, okay, growing up, as you saw in D2 and D3, even if you still have the original cast, they grew up to be very strategic, and they were pretty good fighters. So I think that's probably half of turning my vote, because I'm looking at it as they're very good with pranks. They thought a lot of things through, and they did a lot of fighting, where the Sandlot's probably great, but they're more of it's a one shot and we win, or we're all going to be winded and we're out, no matter how fast we're running.
Because the Sandlot, they've got an edge. They've got an edge, but at a certain point, how much does that end up helping you when you're going up against the Ducks? Look, I think that in a street fight, obviously, like I keep saying, the Sandlot is going to come out swinging. And I don't think the Ducks are going to be ready initially for him. Fulton Reed is going to hold his own right off the bat for sure. He might have to get his balance, but that's going to happen really quick. But at a certain point, the Ducks are definitely not going to go down easy, and they're not going to give up. Even if
Ducks fly together, baby. Ducks fly together.
Even if they realize that they can't fist fight their way out of this, they are going to be able to finagle some way to make things happen.
They could just quack. They could quack the Sandlot team.
That, you know what? I think that would definitely rattle them if they all started doing that. That would.
Another thing that Ian kind of put me on, and I'm not trying to get off the rails here when I say this, but I think that this is a good fight, and I'm glad we did this because thinking about it, if we were to pick Mighty Ducks 3 when they're playing for the Eden Hall Warriors, they're absolutely the Eden Hall Warriors team is kicking the shit out of the Sandlot team. That team, Team USA even it gets because Team USA beats Iceland, and Iceland is fucking scary in that movie.
Yeah,
I used to have nightmares like I hope I never have to play Iceland when I'm older. Iceland doesn't even exist.
They've obviously changed a lot, and the D2
lineup
they've got a lot going for them in that lineup.
Oh yeah, they get more skilled obviously, but I think that at the end of the day, I think that the Ducks will fly together and maybe jump on the back of Fulton Reed and ride this one to victory. I don't think that the Sandlot has anybody that could take down Fulton Reed. To be
underrated factor in the Mighty Ducks movie is how gritty Charlie Conway's mom is because she's pissed at Bombay like the first half of the movie. So he's got a lot of grit already.
I wish that the Sandlot team had a coach so that we could get Gordon Bombay.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
In on the action because
Gordon Bombay versus the dog versus Hercules, the Beast.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. When Gordon Bombay plays in the second movie, when he plays that game of posts versus the head coach of Iceland, and you find out that he's the one that hurt Bombay's knee in the first place, and Bombay stands in there after taking that slash, like I don't know, man.
He's an American hero. There's no doubt about that. But if we're talking about these lineups, oh man, coming in here, I was so hardcore Sandlot, but I really think that the mental edge is going to give the Ducks, it's going to put them over at the end of the day for this fight. And Fulton Reed is not to be trifled with. I think you're right. Man, he's going to take out at least. Man, he's going to take out at least 3 or 4 of these guys on his own.
When you really think about it, kids on the Mighty Ducks were doing poop dollar to full-grown men. And the Sandlot kids couldn't even figure out how to knock on a door to get back a fucking baseball.
Well, because there was... the night... all right, fair enough.
Yeah, I think you just solved it right there.
There's no... Yep, that I cannot crack that. So you've turned me around, Matthew. I'm gonna have to lock in my answer that the Ducks are taking this one.
Ducks fly together, baby.
Man,
surprising.
Ian sent me that picture of. Yeah, this is the first time we've ever agreed, Andy. This is a big moment in Two in the Cooler history.
On a couple others. We agree.
Yeah, but I feel like this is the first time I ever persuaded you to side with me.
Yeah, that might be true.
I've watched both these. I feel like all of us have watched both these movies. Well, maybe not you so much, the Mighty Ducks, but even then, I've watched the Mighty Ducks a lot of times, more times than any human should watch most movies.
I might go watch it right now.
And I've watched the Sandlot the two. Do you remember you had the Sandlot on DVD, and I used to sneak into your bedroom when you were at your friend's house and take your Sandlot DVD so that I could watch the Sandlot, and you would come home and be like, "Where the fuck's my Sandlot DVD?" Start swinging baseball bats at my head and shit.
Oh my god, that's not true, Matthew. We're not getting into this again, man.
All I'm hearing is you're abusing Matt. That's all I got.
Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? If anybody is abusing anybody, it's Matthew Canada. That's the soundbite for the episode.
I made you tougher, Andy. I turned you into a man.
Jesus Christ.
You think you would have been able to grow that beard without me hassling you as a child?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Oh.
Calmly, without a doubt.
Well, okay. So bottom line, lock it in. We're still sending it to Twitter because it's just, I don't know. It's just what we do. We like to hear the people's opinion. But I think that we're all in agreement that the Mighty Ducks win this fight and there's different ways to look at it. The Sandlot's not. Nobody's going down without a fight. This is going to be a good scrap. I think that if we had this podcast when those movies came out, however many years ago, and we could have arranged a, because they came out around the same time, right?
Boy, I think the Ducks came out a few years later. Or wait, is that even right?
Okay.
Because when
Aren't they close?
they've got to be really close, because later on, shit, maybe the Mighty Ducks came out first. Fuck, I don't know. Are you looking it up, Matthew? Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Because in the
the Mighty Ducks came out in '92 and the Sandlot came out in '93.
Wow. Okay.
Imagine a crossover. See, we should have been able to create a crossover. That would have been some gas.
What if Squints, you know what he did with Wendy Peppercorn, like acting like he was dead?
Mm-hmm.
What if he played dead? Would that fool any of the Mighty Ducks into somehow tricking them?
I think that it would.
Fulton Reed doesn't.
No, not Fulton Reed.
Fulton Reed's just killing everybody.
Yeah, exactly. He's too busy. He's going on a tear. But I think that there are a couple guys that would definitely work on. He could take out a couple through that.
You could get Goldberg.
Goldberg would be looking over top.
That's
of him,
that's the thing. I think that definitely part of the Sandlot strategy is a Squints and Ham team up. Like Squints is distracting them. Next thing you know, Ham's like they're tabletopping people, right? And they're
Squints is a scrapper.
Yes, absolutely,
Squints is
absolutely.
a scrapper. But
I think at the end of the day,
but at the end of the day, the Mighty Ducks.
yeah,
win the
that's
fight.
the thing. It'd be a great, it'd be a well-earned Rumble here,
crossover movie.
But at the end of the day, the Ducks, they have to take this one, I think. Man, I can't believe you turned me around on that. I was so pro Sandlot coming into
Such
this.
good movies. It makes me want to watch both.
Yeah,
those
I honestly
movies.
might
I
jump
love
into
The
one
Sandlot.
right
That's
now.
a great movie.
Yeah.
Ooh, mama.
Oh boy.
Wow. Yeah, you know how it
Yep.
goes. When I start
Matthew's getting
yawning.
ready for a nap.
I didn't sleep very well last night. No, I can't nap. I have too much stuff to do. I got to be all over Western New York today in preparation for the next 5 days. I got to get stuff done. I didn't sleep very well last night. I had
Have you finished unpacking yet?
I had to yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've still got some stuff around, but I had to I got dog hair over my bed. Hannah's dog was here last night because she couldn't. Her brother's puppy is at her house. Whatever. I don't fucking know. So I was sleeping with this dog last night, and I mean my bed is like fairly good size. I think it's like in between a queen and a full. I don't really know how that works. And this is a giant golden retriever who managed to take up literally 93% of my bed, and while doing it, was on all the covers, and I don't know how. I don't want to interrupt the dog's sleep, so I slept. I had to turn my air conditioner off at one point because I was so cold, and I slept just on a fraction of my bed, and let the dog, really, So I'm a little tired, but we battle. There was one more thing. We had a good episode. I thought we talked a lot of hockey. Sorry for those who didn't want to hear us talk about all the hockey stuff, but I did have one more question for Ian for Ian. It's going to put him on the spot, but I don't know. I've asked it to other guests before. I do it to Andy's guests. I do it to mine. A story, like what is one thing through the 4 years that we've known together that I've played for you, like the number one story that you could think of that like our listeners would like to hear?
Some of these have to probably be censored, I feel like.
I would say censored more for like the fact that
I don't know many terrible stories.
like
I say no
yeah.
Oh yeah, to protect the identities of people involved, maybe.
Yes, yeah, just
Yeah.
know that.
Well, no, to protect the. Yeah.
Oh wow, we've had some interesting trips. I think. Okay, I got one. So this was, we'll say, a couple seasons ago. It might be more, it might be less, but we'll say a couple seasons ago. We were down in either Pittsburgh or Rhode Island, and I think we got there probably on Friday. We left either Friday morning or Thursday because we had a game maybe middle of Friday. So we've got the whole weekend in, whichever city we were in. I forgot which one it was at the time. So we go down there or whatever, and, everybody's kind of settled. We got everyone lunch. We go to our game. We say, okay, great win. Let's everybody rest up, recover. We have a game tomorrow night. So, again, a lot of time between getting back to a hotel at 11 o'clock and going into a game Saturday night. And we say, everybody just take care of yourselves. Like, most of the time, we know you guys are going to be fine in the rooms. Just be smart. Don't do anything stupid. The usual concept. And I, was just hanging out with the other coaches, and I decided I'm going to go make my rounds. Now, where we were was in the hotel, like, wrapped around it. There's a strip mall across the way. There's restaurants on the right, and then there's a highway, like, probably 2 miles down. So it's kind of, like, right next to everything, but, like, I don't think anyone's going far by any means. You usually have everything right in front of you that you're going to need to. So I look around, I see nobody. I ask the front desk, I go, hey, how's everybody going? You haven't seen anything crazy, any complaints, anything that we should know about? Nope, everything's fine. There was a goaltender, who shall remain nameless, came into the front of the hotel, sees me checking with the he's at least probably an hour or two past curfew at this point. He sees me, looks at me, waves hello, walks right back outside and goes and just leaves the hotel. And I'm just sitting there like, you're red-handed. I don't know what you're doing, where you're going. I'm like, I need to investigate this more. But I just said, you know what, that's fine. I'll sit in the lobby. He's got to come back that way, right? 5 minutes later, nothing. 10 minutes later, nothing. So I'm like, okay. I'll tell the front desk lady, hey, if you see this gentleman, can you please just let me know when he's in? I'd like to just make sure. I'm going to go check his room right now. Great, sounds good. As soon as I'm turning the corner, this guy is in the, how hotels have like the little side counter with like chips, drinks, all that other stuff? He came through the side entrance and he is crushing 3 bags of chips, a Red Bull, and a water, and it runs into me again and just looking at me. I'm like, did you even talk to these? Did you pay for these? Where are these coming from? And I had to have a giant discussion with him, talk to him the next day, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. And we kind of hashed it out a little bit and figured out the best situation for him moving forward. But I've just never seen a guy thinking he's getting away with it come back all the way out, loop around, and he's still in the front desk, and he's just hammering away at their snacks. I was like, you just ate like $40 of chips. What are you doing? It was the most – I've never seen any player ever do this, but it's like, I don't know. I must have thought he was invincible. It was one of the weirdest stories, but I'll always remember it.
I can think of 2 other times. There's one that I know was in Pittsburgh. It was in Philly. When we were there for I don't know. I don't think it was when we were there for the Villanova tournament, but we were there for whatever reason, and it was one of those. We had a Friday, Saturday, and we're staying over Sunday because we had a late Saturday game with no game on Sunday. We were driving home on Sunday, and those were always like the best road trips because you have a whole night in a hotel pretty much like just with the boys, and we would never get like too out of hand, but we would definitely have some fun. And we were in my room, and it was mine and one of our other captains' room. Anthony Vekic is his name, and we're like usually 2 pretty quiet, relaxed guys. Like we don't really get after it too much on the road. But we had a good group of the guys in our room hanging out, like doing whatever. And Ian was walking by our room with a bucket of ice because the coaches had no games either, so they were going over game stuff, having a drink or two. So he was walking past the room with a bucket of ice and realized like our door is kind of propped open and like we weren't loud but can tell there's like a lot of us in there. So he comes into the room and ended up just shooting the shit with us for like an hour to the point where by the time he got back, the other coaches were asleep and the ice was pretty much melted. And that was a funny night. I'll always remember that one. And on top of that, there was another occasion where we had to have a large discussion because a few guys from the team got out of hand at the hotel snack bar and decided to charge it to their room, which then that bill gets sent to the school, and we had to definitely hash that one out. That didn't end well, but just good times on the road. It's funny.
Well, I was going to say, that was... No, the thing is I think going back to your karaoke thing, that was my karaoke of everybody gets on the bus, And that was the other story I was thinking of. I was like, there was 2 snack stories. That was the other one because we were definitely like playing Rutgers or something. I feel like, and
yeah, I think we were in New
because
Jersey.
it was right before the game, and I get the mic that's in the front of the bus, and I'm like, all right, how's everybody doing? Good, great. Who was room 301? Who was room 302? And you go through and you're finding out what snacks are charged to what guys. And of course, I've got a few freshmen in there who don't learn. Like, you can't just charge all this stuff to your room. Like, the one guy I found who passed curfew and was eating snacks, he paid for his own. Like, you're screwing up, but you're at least trying to rectify that. Well, it turns out we found, I think it was, they came up to me after the fact, 3 different individuals that charged, I think it was Logar, Vec, and was it your room too, Canada? Were you guys all together? Or?
We were, yeah, because that's who we room with. But I wasn't. I don't think it was me specifically, but there was definitely a lot of snacks floating.
Yeah, they're just charging. What room are you in? And then you'll see somebody just eating snacks, and I'm like, you're not in that room. Where did you get this Reese's king size 4-pack from? And it's just they learn on the road. It's always an experience, but they learn very quickly.
Yeah. There's nothing better than charging a snack to somebody else's room and knowing it's a freshman.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, you just keep your mouth shut.
One of these days I'll have a heart attack because of you guys. I swear to God.
Yeah, well, good thing I've only got one more year.
That's true.
I'm living on borrowed time at this point. But I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. I think we definitely did a lot of hockey talk. But I think it was good because, we do talk a lot about movies and stuff like that, and that kind of sheds more light on Andrew's life, and I think it was good to kind of give the viewers a little insight into kind of what I do on a normal basis when we're not all teamed up and stuff like that, and hopefully they enjoy it. And I think our Who Would Win of the Week was good, and I thank you very much for coming on, Ian. I know this is one guy I said to Andy, I said, I don't know what he was thinking when I said I really want my hockey coach on, because I don't know, he didn't really know who you were. I didn't know what he was expecting, but because Ian is definitely a fan of the podcast. He'll text me almost every week saying who he thinks would win. I've even gotten some who would win ideas from you, I'm pretty sure. Like, I think you've given me some suggestions, and that's all good stuff. And
well, I appreciate you guys having me.
Yes.
It's fun to listen and listen to Film Juice. That's good too. And
all right, thanks for plugging.
I'll be around, but keep it up, fellas. Good job.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming on, Ian.
Awesome. Yeah, there's definitely gonna be a lot more hockey talk once we get into the season. So listeners beware, but that's just how it's gonna go.
Yep. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Matthew. I'll talk to you later. Ian, thanks again for coming on, man. We'll have you back.
Episode 18 or 19 or whatever we're on.
Go Griffs.
Whatever episode it may be. Go Griffs. All right. Yeah. Yep. Thanks, guys. Definitely. And also, not to get too into it, but I'm going to find that karaoke video because I know there's a video. I know you sent me the picture, but I know I have a video somewhere of Dirkie and I singing that song, and we'll have to get that out so people can get a little behind the scenes look at what we do when we're on the bus for 12 hours a weekend and whatnot. So, all right. Thanks for listening, guys.